What if someone was living in your house every single night while you slept miles away? Hey everyone, it's Alex here, and this is the craziest, most unsettling thing that's ever happened to me. My name is Alex Thompson. I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood where nothing exciting ever happens. I work long hours as an IT consultant. Out the door by 7 a.m., back home drain around 7 or 8 p.m., house is locked, security system armed, life on autopilot. Or so I thought. One Tuesday evening, I'm wheeling the trash bins to the curb. Sun's just dipped below the houses. Out of nowhere, my neighbor Mr. Harold Jenkins comes speed walking across his lawn straight toward me. He's in his 70s, usually the picture of calm, but his face is ghost white, eyes bugging out like he's seen a ghost. He grabs my arm, hard, and leans in close. Alex, listen to me. Every night you're away at work, a man comes to your house. Exactly 10 p.m. He stays all night long. Leaves at 6 a.m. sharp. Every single night for weeks. I let out a nervous laugh. Mr. Jenkins, come on. That's impossible. My alarms would scream. The motion sensors would ping my phone. He shakes his head slowly. No alarms. Hardly any lights. He moves like he knows the place. I've watched from my upstairs bedroom window that overlooks your backyard. He doesn't break in, he enters. Like he has a key. Or worse. My stomach twists. Right there on the driveway, I pull up my security app. 0 notifications. 0 motion events. Clean history. But Mr. Jenkins isn't the dramatic type. He's the guy who calls animal control over a loose dog at 3 a.m. He doesn't joke. I tell him thanks. I'll look into it and head inside. But that night I can't sleep. Every floorboard creak sounds like footsteps. Every shadow looks like a figure. What if this mystery man knows my exact schedule? What if he's been watching me too? The paranoia builds fast. I start double-checking locks, peeking out windows at night. I almost convince myself Mr. Jenkins got it wrong. Maybe a reflection, maybe a friend I forgot about. But deep down I know something's off. I couldn't ignore it anymore. So I ordered 4 tiny hidden cameras online. Battery-powered, motion-triggered, crystal clear even in low light. Then I did the boldest thing. I faked a 3-day business trip. Told work, told Mr. Jenkins, told everyone I'd be out of town. I packed a bag, drove off like normal, but checked into a cheap motel 10 minutes away. That first night, at exactly 10 p.m., I opened my laptop and pulled up the live feed. And what appeared on screen made my blood turn to ice. Picture this. Your neighbor grabs your arm in the dark driveway, voice shaking and whispers. He's not breaking in. He's walking like it's his house, too. After Mr. Jenkins dropped that bomb, I stood frozen next to the trash cans for what felt like forever. My mind raced through every possible explanation. Delivery guy with the wrong address? A maintenance guy I forgot about? Some creep testing doors? But none of it fit. He enters at 10 p.m. sharp, right after my usual bedtime if I'm home, and leaves at 6 a.m., right before my alarm would normally go off. That's not random. That's calculated. I thanked Mr. Jenkins, told him I checked the cameras and went inside, locked the door, double-checked the deadbolt, set the alarm. Then I sat on the couch staring at my phone, refreshing the security app like it owed me money. Nothing. Not a single ping. The house looked quiet on the live feed. Too quiet. Have you ever had that feeling where someone tells you something terrifying, and part of you wants to believe it's nonsense, but another part knows it's real? That was me. I almost texted Mr. Jenkins back. You sure it was a raccoon or something? But I didn't, because deep down I believed him. The next few days I became obsessed. I started leaving work early just to drive by the house at weird hours. Nothing. I asked around the neighborhood, casually. Anyone seen anything strange? Blank stares. I even joked with my co-worker about having a secret roommate. He laughed. I didn't. Then came the paranoia spikes. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. convinced I heard the back door. I'd creep downstairs, flashlight in hand, heart hammering. Empty. Always empty. But the doubt grew louder. What if Mr. Jenkins was right? What if someone had a key? What if they'd had one for years? I couldn't live like that, jumpy, second-guessing every shadow. So I made a decision. I ordered those hidden cameras the very next morning. 4 of them. One in the living room, one in the kitchen, one covering the hallway, one aimed at the back door. Tiny wireless night vision. They arrived in 2 days. I spent an entire Saturday installing them while pretending it was just upgrading the security. Then I told everyone, including Mr. Jenkins, that I had a last-minute business trip. 3 days in Chicago. Packed a suitcase, loaded it in the car, waved it by like normal. Drove straight to a budget motel on the edge of town. Checked in under my name just in case anyone was watching. That first night I sat on the stiff motel bed, laptop open, energy drink in hand. The feed loaded. The house looked still. 9:58 p.m. 9:59. 10 o'clock. Nothing. I exhaled. Maybe Mr. Jenkins really did see things. Then at 10:02 the back door handle turned. Slowly, deliberately, a man stepped inside. Hood up, moving with total confidence. He closed the door behind him without hesitation. He wasn't sneaking. He was coming home. My hand started shaking, so bad I almost dropped the laptop. What would you do if you watched a complete stranger walk into your home like he had a standing invitation, and then treat it exactly like his own? I stared at the laptop screen in that dingy motel room, mouth dry, pulse hammering in my ears. The man on the feed closed the back door softly behind him. Hood still up, shoulders relaxed. No glance over his shoulder. No hesitation. He knew exactly where he was going. He flicked on the small kitchen light, just enough to see, not enough to draw attention from the street. Then he opened my fridge. Casual, like he'd done it 100 times. He pulled out the leftover Chinese takeout from 2 nights before, popped in the microwave, and stood there waiting for the beep. 45 seconds later, he was eating my General Tso's chicken straight from the container with a fork he grabbed from my drawer. I felt violated in a way I can't even describe. This wasn't smash and grab. This wasn't desperation. This was comfort. He wandered into the living room next, sat on my couch, like it was his favorite spot, kicked off his shoes, turned on the TV, low volume, some late-night crime documentary. He laughed quietly at something on screen. Laughed. In my house. I zoomed in on the camera feed. Middle-aged, maybe late 50s. Short graying hair under the hood. Clean-shaven. Nothing menacing about his face, except the fact that he was inside my locked home at 10:15 p.m. while I was supposed to be in Chicago. He finished eating, rinsed the container, put it in the recycling bin. Polite, almost considerate. Then he headed upstairs. My stomach dropped. The hallway camera caught him pausing at my bedroom door. But he didn't go in. He went to the guest room instead, the one I barely use. He pulled clean towels from the linen closet. Towels I'd folded myself. Took a shower in the guest bathroom. I heard the water running through the tiny mic on the camera. 20 minutes later, he emerged in sweatpants and a T-shirt that looked suspiciously like one of mine from the laundry basket. He climbed into the guest bed, turned off a lamp, settled in. Within 10 minutes, his breathing slowed. He was asleep. In my house. All night, I sat there until 6:03 a.m. when the back door camera showed him leaving. Same confident walk. Hood up. Gone before the sun rose. I replayed the footage 3 times. Each time the violation hit harder. He hadn't stolen a single thing. Not cash, not electronics, not even a beer from the fridge beyond what he ate. He just existed there. Used my space. My water. My bed. But something else gnawed at me. His face. In the clearer kitchen shots. Something about his profile felt familiar. Not a neighbor. Not a coworker. Something older. Deeper. I couldn't sleep after that. I paced the motel room replaying every detail. Why the guest room? Why no damage? Why my house specifically? Night 2 was coming. I had to keep watching. And on night 2, he did something that made me slam the laptop shut and swear out loud. He walked straight to the living room camera, looked right at the lens for 3 full seconds, and smiled. Like he knew I was watching. Have you ever zoomed in on a face from your past and felt the whole world tilt sideways because you suddenly realized who's been sleeping in your guest room? I froze on that motel bed, staring at the still frame where he looked straight into the camera and smiled. Not a creepy grin, a small, almost sad one, like he was saying, "I know you're out there watching." My first instinct was to rip the cameras out remotely, but I didn't. I needed answers more than I needed to feel safe. I scrubbed back through every clip. Kitchen light on. Clear shot his face when he rinsed the plate. I paused, zoomed, heart slamming against my ribs. The jawline, the slight crook in the nose from that old football injury, the way one eyebrow sat a fraction higher than the other. It was Uncle Ray, Raymond Harlan, my mom's younger brother. The same Uncle Ray who used to sneak me extra ice cream at family barbecues, who taught me how to throw a spiral, who disappeared 8 years ago after a massive blowout with my dad over money he'd borrowed and never repaid. We all assumed he'd skip town, maybe start over somewhere else. No calls, no postcards, just gone. But here he was, using my house like a nightly hotel. How? I changed the locks after my parents passed. Or had I? I remember the spare key Mom kept taped under the deck railing for emergencies. I'd meant to remove it. Life got busy. I never did. The contradictions hit like punches. He wasn't dangerous. He wasn't destructive. He folded the towels. He wiped the counters. He even left the thermostat exactly where I always set it. Polite intruder. Family squatter. Betrayal wrapped in nostalgia. I sat there replaying childhood memories while the screen showed him sleeping peacefully in my spare bed. The fun uncle who vanished. The man who now haunted my house every night. Anger bubbled up. How dare he? Mixed with this weird pang of pity. Was he homeless? Broke? Too proud to ask for help? I couldn't just keep watching like some twisted reality show. Night 3 was approaching. I had one more feed to review before I decided what came next. On that final night, he did something different. After his usual routine shower, TV bed, he didn't go straight to sleep. He walked into my bedroom, stood in the doorway for a long minute. Then he picked up the framed photo on my dresser, the one of me, Mom, Dad, and him at the lake when I was 12. He stared at it, wiped his eyes with his sleeve, put it back carefully, whispered something I couldn't make out on the mic. Then he left the room, went back to the guest bed. Lights out. That was it. I shut the laptop, booked it out of the motel at 5 a.m., drove home in the dark, parked 2 streets over, slipped into my own house before sunrise, hid in the hallway closet with the door cracked just enough to see. I waited. At exactly 10 p.m., the back door clicked open. Footsteps in the kitchen. Slow. Familiar. He was here, and this time, I was waiting for him. What happens when the monster you've been terrified of turns out to be the one person who used to tuck you in at night? The back door opened at 10:02 p.m. exactly. Same soft click. Same slow footsteps across the kitchen tile. I stayed crouched in the hallway closet. Door cracked an inch. Barely breathing. My palms were slick with sweat. Every muscle screamed to burst out. But I waited. I needed to see his face when he realized he wasn't alone. He flicked on the kitchen light. Same routine. Opened the fridge. Paused. Frowned. Muttered something under his breath about the shelves being rearranged. Then he grabbed a yogurt, mine and a spoon, turned toward the living room. That's when I stepped out. Uncle Ray. He froze. The yogurt slipped from his hand and splattered across the floor. His eyes locked on mine. Wide. Terrified. Then recognition hit, and the color drained from his face completely. Alex. His voice cracked. You're supposed to be in Chicago. I didn't move. I came home early. Silence stretched between us like a tightrope. He looked older up close, lines deeper, shoulders thinner. Not the confident intruder from the footage. Just a tired, broken man. I expected anger to explode out of me. Instead, my voice came out quiet. Why? He sank onto one of the kitchen chairs like his legs gave out, hands shaking. I don't want to hurt you. I swear, after your dad and I fought, after everything fell apart, I lost my job, apartment, everything. Pride kept me from asking for help. But I still had that old key, the one under the deck. I told myself I'd just borrow the space. A few nights, then a few more. I never took anything valuable. I cleaned up after myself. I just needed somewhere safe to sleep. I stared at him, the man who taught me to ride a bike, the man who vanished when I needed family most. Now, he was using my guest room like a shelter. The violation still burned, but it tangled with something else. Pity, confusion, old love that never quite died. Why look at that photo? I asked, in my room. Why cry? He swallowed hard. Because every night I remembered what I lost. You, your mom, the family I threw away. I'd sit there and promise myself I'd leave for good, but I never could. I didn't call the police. I couldn't. Not yet. We talked until almost 3 a.m. Raw, honest, tears on both sides. He told me about the shelters that turned him away, the jobs that never lasted, the shame that kept him silent. I told him how scared I'd been, how betrayed, how Mr. Jenkins' warning probably saved us both from something worse. In the end, I made a choice no one would expect. I didn't kick him out. I said, stay in the guest room, properly this time. No more sneaking. We'll figure out the rest, job leads, maybe therapy, a real plan, but no more hiding. He broke down sobbing, thanked me over and over like he couldn't believe it was real. That night, for the first time in weeks, the house felt quiet, not empty, just settled. But the story doesn't end there, because the very next morning Mr. Jenkins knocked on my door, eyes wide again, whispering, "Alex, he's still here. I saw him leave this morning, but he came back." What did you do? Ever wonder if the biggest scares in life aren't strangers at all, but the family members who still hold pieces of your heart? The morning after that long talk with Uncle Ray, Mr. Jenkins stood on my porch looking like he'd seen another ghost. "Alex," he came back. I watched him walk right in the front door this time, like he belongs there. "You okay? Should I call someone?" I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I invited him in for coffee and told him everything. The cameras, the nights of footage, the smile at the lens, the photo in my bedroom, and finally, the kitchen floor confession at 3 a.m. Mr. Jenkins listened, mug frozen halfway to his mouth, eyes getting wider with every detail. When I finished, he just shook his head slowly. "I thought I was warning you about a danger. Turns out I was warning you about family." He paused. "You did the right thing, kid. Not everyone gets a second chance to fix what broke." Uncle Ray stayed. Not forever, just long enough. We set ground rules. No more hidden keys. Full transparency, real effort. I helped him update his resume, drove him to interviews, even reconnected him with a couple of old family friends who'd wondered where he'd gone. It wasn't instant magic. There were awkward silences, old arguments that bubbled up, tears we both pretended weren't happening. But slowly the guest room stopped feeling like a crime scene and started feeling like a second chance. He landed a part-time job at a local hardware store 3 weeks later, moved into a small studio apartment downtown. We still talk almost every day. Sometimes he drops by for dinner, through the front door with a knock. No more 10 p.m. shadows. Looking back, that question I open with haunts me in a different way now. What if someone was living in your house every night while you were away? Turns out the answer wasn't horror. It was heartbreak with a side of hope. The scariest intruder wasn't a stranger. It was someone who used to mean everything and still could. Trust your neighbors. They might spot the truth you're too close to see. Double-check those spare keys. And maybe, just maybe, leave the door open a crack for the people who once walked through it freely. If this story hit you, if it made you think about your own family secrets, your own warnings ignored, smash that like button. Subscribe if you want more real-life twists that start terrifying and end human. Drop a comment. Have you ever had someone from your past show up in a way you never expected? Tell me. Your story might be next. Stay safe out there, and keep your eyes open.